is most important. I want everyone to focus. Today we are going to learn Spring Web MVC or Spring MVC. Flow of execution. Flow of execution, guys. Now listen. First, I will introduce one by one component. At the end, I will give flow of execution diagram. Components in Spring MVC web application development. Number one, dispatcher servlet, guys. Number two, controller class or handler class, guys. Number three, handler mapping. Number four, view resolver. Number five, view component. These are the main components of Spring MVC web application development. These are the main components of Spring MVC web application development. Entire flow will be decided here only. Dispatcher servlet. Okay. The ready-made front controller servlet component, which traps either all requests or multiple requests to apply common system services. Either it will trap all the requests or multiple requests to apply common system services. Entire Spring Web application, entire Spring Web MVC is designed around front controller dispatcher servlet component. That means all the navigations takes place around front controller dispatcher servlet. Each and every activity will happen with respect to front controller. Each and every activity happens with respect to front controller. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Got it? Though dispatcher servlet component is predefined servlet component available in Spring MVC, Spring-MVC-version.jar file. Its configuration in web.xml file is mandatory, either with directory match URL pattern or extension match URL pattern. Directory match, some words /star. Extension match means star.extension word. Extension match star.extension word. Okay. Tell me, guys, servlet is ready-made, boss. It is there in jar file. But to inform to web application and servlet container, I am interested to take this class as servlet component. You please recognize. Then we have to do configuration in web.xml file or not. I hope everyone remembered. Everyone remembered servlet? Once we develop the servlet component, its details we write in web.xml file, guys. Please. Why, sir? To tell to servlet component. In Spring MVC application, who is front controller? Who is front controller? I'll give time to type. Who is front controller? Dispatcher servlet. Is it user-defined servlet or predefined servlet? Predefined servlet. It is dynamically generated or already available class in the jar file. Is it dynamically generated or available in the jar file? It's a ready-made class available in the jar file. What is that jar file? Everyone should respond. Spring-web-mvc-version.jar. So those servlet component class is predefined class. To make servlet container, recognizing Java class as servlet component. Its configuration in web.xml file is mandatory or not? Its configuration in web.xml file is mandatory or not? Come on, my dear. It's a configuration in web.xml file is. It's a configuration in web.xml file is mandatory. Tell me, boss. Okay, web.xml. Web app open tag and closing tag. To configure every servlet in web.xml, we need to use a servlet and servlet mapping tags now, boss. Need to use servlet and servlet mapping tags. What do you say, boss? We need to use servlet and servlet mapping tags now, boss. Yeah, servlet. Servlet mapping. What is the servlet name? Dispatcher logical name. Servlet class. Package name dispatcher servlet. Fully qualified Java class acting as servlet component. Here I enabled load on startup. Here I enabled load on startup. Got it? Here I enabled load on startup, guys. Again, servlet name dispatcher, guys. URL pattern star.do. URL pattern star.do. Come on. This is going to be extension match URL pattern. Why front controller should have extension match URL pattern, guys? So that it can trap multiple requests whose URL pattern is having .do word. Whose URL pattern is having .do word. Understanding my statement? Why are you enabling load on startup on the servlet, guys? It is such an important servlet, right? It is such an important servlet. It is such an important servlet. Better to enable pre-instantiation on servlet or not? So the application dispatcher servlet class object should be created during the deployment of the web application or not? Yeah. Someone is asking me question. Sir, we can use annotation to configure servlet. Why are you using XML file? Are dispatcher servlet is predefined class or user defined class? Come on, guys. Mr. Nicky M. I don't need your servlet knowledge, talent, Shora Babu. First, try to understand that dirty fellow here. Okay. Yeah. Predefined. Can you open and add annotation in the predefined classes? Can you open and add annotations in predefined classes? Okay, dispatcher servlet is a predefined class. Dispatcher servlet is a predefined class. Got it? So is there any possibility of configuring this servlet through annotation? No. So what should I do? We need to configure using XML, boss. We need to configure using XML or not? Yeah. This is logical name, Rababu. Dispatcher servlet is logical name. Logical name. This is also logical name. This is logical name. This is fully qualified servlet class. Fully qualified servlet component class. Super, guys. Tell me here, what is the story? If dispatcher servlet URL pattern is extension match or directory match, then it can take multiple requests that are matching, that are having matching URL pattern of DS. Multiple requests that are having matching URL pattern of DS. DS means dispatcher servlet. Okay, what is the meaning of this star dot do? It will trap every request whose request URL ends with dot do. Whose request URL ends with dot do. Is that clear, guys? Whose request URL ends with dot do. No, sir. I don't want to have that condition. It should trap each and every request. If dispatcher servlet URL pattern is a slash, then it can take all requests coming to web application. All requests coming to web application. Understanding my statement? Sai Sam, if you don't know servlet, can you keep quiet? Can you keep quiet? As of now, servlet configuration is possible either through XML or through annotations. Why I'm not using annotation? Few minutes back I talked. The people who don't know servlet, they cannot follow springMvc. So please stop showing your talent. Please stop showing your talent in the chat box if you don't have servlet knowledge. Am I clear? Am I clear? Super. So your intelligence is not required. Servlet knowledge is required as prerequisite. The people who are trying to show your talent, first get this, try to become some talented fellow in the servlet. Then bring that prerequisite knowledge in the springMvc learning. Okay. If dispatcher servlet URL pattern is a slash, this one here in the place of star dot, if you use slash, then it can take all requests coming to web application. This is good. Right, boss. Next, load on startup enabled on DS makes the servlet container to instantiate and initialize dispatcher servlet either during server startup or during the deployment of web application. So indirectly, it will perform what, guys? Pre-instantiation of dispatcher servlet or not? Performs pre-instantiation of servlet component. Performs pre-instantiation of servlet component. Performs pre-instantiation of servlet component. Pre-instantiation of servlet component. Yes, boss. Tell me. As part of dispatcher servlet initialization, it creates one IOC container. Everyone, please listen carefully. Of type web application context by taking web.inf/ ds logical name -servlet.xml file as Spring Bean configuration file. In that process, all the singleton scope Spring Beans placed in Spring Bean configuration file will be pre-instantiated and also completes the necessary injections among them. Dispatcher servlet is doing one great thing here, Babu. We enable load on startup on dispatcher servlet. When servlet container create dispatcher servlet class object, guys, during server startup. So in that process, dispatch servlet init method executes. In the init method, one IOC container is created by taking web.inf/ ds logical name -servlet.xml as the Spring Bean configuration file. Dispatcher -servlet.xml as the Spring Bean configuration file. Come on, guys. In that process, all the singleton scope Spring Beans placed in Spring Bean configuration file will be pre-instantiated and also complete necessary injections among them. Also complete the necessary injections among them. Also complete the necessary injections among them. I hope everyone convinced, my dear. Got it? Super. Now listen. One thing is clear, guys. In Spring MVC web application, servlet component JSP components will be managed by servlet container JSP container. Spring Beans will be managed by dispatcher servlet created IOC container. The dispatcher servlet created IOC container. Are you listening my statement, guys? In Spring MVC applications, the servlet container manages dispatcher servlet component, whereas the JSP container manages JSP components, but the Spring Beans configured in a Spring Bean configuration file will be managed configuration file or through annotations will be managed using, come on my dear, using what they will be managed, guys? Okay, will be managed by the IOC container created by the dispatcher server. IOC container created by the dispatcher server. Everyone understanding my statement, guys? The Spring Bean configuration file of Spring MVC application contains handler mappings, controller or handler classes configuration, service classes configuration, DAO classes configuration, view resolver classes configuration. Okay, we take these classes as Spring Beans. We take these Spring Beans as singleton scope Spring Beans. All of them will be configured as Spring Beans Java. Spring Beans, guys, that too as a singleton scope. Dispatcher servlet is 1 per Spring MVC application. Dispatcher servlet is 1 per Spring MVC application. Okay, boss. Now tell me here what is there. DAO class contains persistence logic. What logic, guys? Persistence logic. Persistence logic means what? JDBC code or any other code talking to database software. Service class contains business logic. Controller or handler class contains delegation logic. Delegation logic or business logic. Array, if I don't use service and DAO classes, controller or handler class itself contains business logic. Otherwise, it contains delegation logic to communicate with service and DAO classes. Service and DAO classes. Super, guys. Next. Okay, these are the things we have to focus on. Yeah, what's the final conclusion, guys? Okay. Can we summarize the discussion on dispatch servlet? How many dispatcher servlet will be there in every Spring MVC application, guys? One. How many will be there, guys? One will be there. How many will be there, guys? One will be there. Super. One will be there. Tell me. When it is instantiated and initialized. When it is instantiated and initialized. Understanding my statement? When it is instantiated and initialized, it internally creates IOC container. That IOC container takes what? That IOC container takes what, guys? Dispatcher servlet logical name -servlet.xml as what? Spring Bean configuration file. What do you say, boss? Dispatcher servlet -servlet.xml as what? Spring Bean configuration file. In that process, the created IOC container performs what? In pre-instantiation of singleton scope Spring Beans and also complete injection on them. Also complete injection on them. Understanding my statement? Okay. In Spring MVC application, the dispatcher servlet acts as front controller servlet. That means it acts as a single entry point. It acts as a single entry point and exit point. Exit point for all the requests and responses. Understanding my point? Okay, for all the requests and responses. Are you understanding my point? Everything will be that dispatcher servlet controls or monitors all the activities of Spring MVC web application. Spring MVC web application. Convinced, my dear? Got the clarity, guys? Come on. Yeah, delegation logic means logic to pass the control. Delegations, Babu. Delegating means passing the control. Passing the control, forwarding the control is called this one. Yeah, request and response. Request and response. You don't know what is request and response? Please stop attending Spring MVC classes. If you don't know what is request and response, what can I explain to you, yaar? Come on, guys. You are asking me what is request and response. Come on. Asking for something is called request. Clicking on hyperlink is request. Clicking on submit button is request. Typing URL in the browser address bar is request. Come on, boss. Whatever web pages comes. Whatever web page comes. Okay. Array. Controller class contains the delegation logic. That means it takes a request and passes to service and DAO classes. It is delegating the request to service and DAO. Passing the request to service and DAO. That's why it is called delegation logic. Got it? Super. Shall we understand what is controller and handler class, guys? It is programmer developed user defined class come Spring Bean having handler methods to process the request directly or by taking the support of service and DAO classes. So you don't want to entertain separate service and DAO classes, boss. In the handler class itself, in the controller class itself, you will keep the request processing class. You will keep the request processing logic. No, I want to have other classes to process the request by executing logic. Then we will keep those logics in service and DAO, and controller class contains delegation logic. Understanding my point? This controller or handler class handles the request given by dispatcher servlet. Generally, it will be developed on what basis, guys? One per module basis. Generally, it will be developed on what basis, guys? One per module basis. What, guys? For every module, we will try to take one by one. For every module, we will try to take one controller class, this one. You take university application, university project, registration, one module, academics, one module, sports and cultural activities, one module. Okay, examinations, one module. Everywhere, one module means what? It deals with a specific portion of the project or not? Specific portion of the project or not? I want reply, boss. Handler or controller class? Handler or controller class? Tell me here, what is this? Okay, now listen. In my project is having 10 modules. How many controller class or handler classes will be there? 10 will be there. Okay. Then, whenever dispatcher servlet traps all the requests, okay, how does dispatcher servlet knows which request should be given to which handler class? Which request should be given to which handler class? So definitely it needs someone guiding. This request should go to this handler. This request should go to this controller. Come on. That special component is nothing but handler mapping component. That special component is nothing but handler mapping component. Understanding my statement? Okay, I repeat, boss. Dispatcher servlet is what? One per entire Spring MVC application. I'll put everything in diagrammatic representation. Please focus. Okay. Handler classes are Java classes developed by programmer. It will be what, guys? It will be taken on what basis, boss? One per module. If project is having 20 modules, how many controller classes will be there? 20. How many controller classes will be there? 20. Got it, my dear. 20 classes will be there. No doubt in that. So dispatcher servlet is trapping all the requests coming to all the modules. So then there should be someone to guide the dispatcher servlet. Hey, dispatcher servlet, send this request to this module controller class, this request to this module controller class, second request to this module controller class, third request to this module controller class or handler class. So who is that special component, guys? Handler mapping. It is like a traffic police, na boss. It is like traffic police, na boss. Come on. Super. Now listen. Handler mapping component was. This component acts as helper component to dispatcher servlet to map. Map is nothing but linking grab object. To map or link. To map or link the incoming request to appropriate handler method of handler classes. Appropriate handler methods of handler classes. The methods of controller class or handler class is called handler method. Which request should go to which handler method of which handler class will be decided by this handler map. Most of the time we use ready-made handler mapping classes. Okay, like request mapping, handler mapping, bean name handler mapping, and etc. And etc. Boss. Understanding my statement? Okay. We configure the controller or handler classes as the spring beans. As the spring beans. Super boss. Next, guys. We configure these handler mapping components as the spring beans. Handler mapping components as the spring beans. Next, guys. Okay, now listen. Somehow, listen. Somehow, handler class has processed a request, generated the output. That output should go to one or other view component like JSP, but there should be someone to tell that this handler method generated output should go to this view component. Come on. This handler method output generated should go to this JSP, should go to this HTML file. So there should be someone guiding this one. How handler mapping is there, deciding the view also. Deciding the view also, there should be one special component now, boss. Towards deciding the view, which say JSP, which servlet, which HTML should be used as view component, we have a view resolver. Resolver means identifier. Resolver means identifier. Got it? Try to understand what is what. You will get the more clarity when I give the diagrammatic representation. Super. Array, listen. Handler class has taken the request, processed the request, either on its own or by taking the support of service DAO classes. Generated result. That result should go to view component for formatting. Right. How does the dispatcher servlet knows which result of which handler method belonging to which handler class should be formatted by using which view component? There are so many view components. There are so many HTML or JSP files, right? For that purpose, we have a view resolver, guys. View resolver component decides which physical view component like JSP file, HTML file, and etc. should be used to process the results generated by handler or controller class after processing the request. Handler or controller class after processing the request, guys. Come on. View resolver component decides which physical view component like JSP or HTML file and etc. JSP file or HTML file and etc. should be used to process the results generated by handler or controller class after processing the request. Array, I'll ask one question. Which request should go to which controller class for request processing? Decided by whom? Which controller class for request processing? Decided by whom? Handler mapping, right? Handler mapping. Similarly, the generated results of this handler classes should be processed by using which JSP component, which HTML component is decided by whom, guys? View resolver. See the view resolver. Resolver means identifier. It helps us to identify the correct view component. It helps us to resolve the correct view component. Convinced, my dear? Got it? Convinced, my dear? Got it, guys? Here is my view resolver. Super. Tell me. It collects the related info from DS and gives view object back to dispatcher servlet having physical view component name and location. Okay, physical view component name and location. Most of the time we use ready-made view resolvers like what is that? Internal resource view resolver. Tiles view resolver, and etc. Internal resource view resolver, tiles view resolver, and etc. Okay, tell me. We also configure them as Spring Beans in Spring Bean configuration file. We have a lot of things, guys. We also configure these classes as Spring Beans in Spring Bean configuration. In Spring Bean configuration file. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Are you understanding my statement, guys? Then view component, guys. These are UI technology component like HTML file, JSP files having presentation logic. These component formats the results collected from the handler or controller classes and sends those results to browser through DS. Okay. Sends those results to browser. Okay, through dispatcher servlet. View components are user-defined components. JSP files are definitely user-defined components or not, boss? JSP files are user-defined components. Convinced, guys? Okay, now I would like to give the flow of execution, guys. Same discussion, but I would like to give diagrammatic representation. Everyone is ready? Okay. So can I ask few questions? Who is the central component in Spring MVC application? Who is the central component in Spring MVC application? DS. DS means dispatcher servlet. DS means dispatcher servlet. Understanding my statement? Super. Fine. Is it ready-made servlet or user-defined servlet? Is it ready-made servlet or user-defined servlet? Ready-made. Its configuration in web.xml is optional or mandatory? Its configuration in web.xml file is mandatory or optional? Mandatory. It is recommended to configure with which URL pattern? Either extension match or directory match or slash. Slash is more recommended or not? Okay. Okay. This acts as an entry and exit point for all requests and responses, guys. Does it create any IOC container internally? Yes. Okay. Now listen. Once the dispatcher servlet traps a request, where that request will be processed, guys, by having programmer supplied logics, controller class or handler class, right? Controller class or handler class. I'll murder you, dirty fellows. Who is saying front controller dispatcher servlet? Once a dispatcher servlet traps and takes a request, it passes the request to where either for request processing directly or indirectly. What are those classes, guys? controller or handler classes. These will be taken on what basis? One per module basis. Super. Okay, when more requests are trapped by dispatcher servlet as front controller, how does it knows which request should go to which handler class? How does it knows which request should go to which handler class? How does it knows which request goes to which handler class? How does it knows which request goes to which handler class? I want reply. But D fellow, it is through the handler mapping component, na boss. Handler mapping component will help to decide which request should go to which handler class. Handler method, come on. But D fellows. Super. Okay, somehow handler classes has process request generated results. Okay, now results have come back to dispatcher servlet. Now dispatcher servlet should decide the JSP or HTML file component to format the result. Okay, it takes the support of which component to decide the view component, to identify the view component. It takes the support of which component to identify the view component. View resolver, not view controller, a waste fellow. It is view resolver. That is what, guys? View resolver. Convinced, my dear? So view resolver identify the view component. Okay, view components are generally what? Any UI technology component like JSP, HTML kind of thing, where results will be formatted and formatted results will be sent to browser through dispatcher servlet or not? Will be sent to browser through dispatcher servlet or not? I want reply. Okay, guys. Now listen. View component. Now listen. This is springMvc application flow of execution, guys. This is web server or application server, guys. Cool. springMvc application flow. springMvc flow, springMvc application flow, diagrammatic representation. Diagrammatic representation. Diagrammatic representation. Clear, guys? Super. Tell me next one. Number 1, we have given request to springMvc application. Who trapped and taken the request, guys? Dispatcher servlet trapped and taken the request. Right, boss? We don't give request to any specific class, Ra Babu. We just give an request. As a front controller with a /URL pattern, who is trapping and taking the request, my dear? Front controller. Now listen. For n number of module, n number of controller classes will be there. How does it knows which request should be given to which controller class for request processing? Either directly or indirectly. It takes the support of handler mapping or not. That's why the front controller dispatcher servlet handovers the trapped request to handler mapping component. Handler mapping component observes. Okay. There is one handler method. Understanding my statement? To process the current request. In certain handler class. Gets that method signature and handler class details and passes to front controller. passes to front controller. Are you listening my statement, guys? Passes to front controller. Okay, once again, check it out. I have given request. Number 1. Number 2, dispatcher servlet traps and takes the request. Number 3, dispatcher servlet handovers the request to handler mapping. Along with the request, some information will be there. Based on that information, URL, path, whatever it is, it will search for handler method in different handler classes. And it notices certain handler method of certain handler class is ready to process this request. That information, handler class name and method details, handler class and method details will be given back to dispatcher servlet. Will be given back to dispatcher servlet. Will be given back to dispatcher servlet. Everyone tell me, guys. Everyone tell me, guys. Handler class and method details are given to dispatcher servlet. That is 5, guys. Now, dispatcher servlet calls that handler method. Calls that handler method. It has got details now, boss. Super. Now, handler method either directly process the request or by talking to service and DAO classes process the request and generates the results now, boss. And generates the results now, boss. Come on. Either directly process the request or generates the result. Super, guys. Now listen carefully. Listen carefully. Now this handler method returns some logical view name. Some logical view name. It never tells I need this JSP of this location. It will just pass some identity word. It will just pass some roll number kind of thing. It will just pass one token name, some nickname, some logical view name to dispatcher servlet. Why, sir? Why it is not passing real JSP file name? Suppose it passed, x.jsp is the JSP file that I want to use to format the results. Tomorrow x.jsp name is changed to z.jsp. Again, I need to modify the source code. Or x.jsp is deleted. Some other technology file has come as the view component. Again, I have to modify the code now, boss. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. That's why very intelligently, it is just generating one token. That is nothing but LVN, logical view name. One small token kind of thing. Dispatcher servlet receives the token now, boss. Who is there to resolve the view component, to identify the view component, to decide the view component? Tell me, my dear. Who is seriously there to do this work? Who is seriously there to do this work, my dear? View resolver is there. Who is there? View resolver is there. Dispatcher servlet passes. Dispatcher servlet passes. Come on, my dear. Dispatcher servlet passes. The token name programmer gives, guys. Programmer gives. Passes that logical view name to view resolver. This view resolver uses it intelligent, decides the name and location of the physical view component. So somehow dispatcher servlet is getting name and location of the physical view component or not. Dispatcher servlet communicates with that, guys. There it formats the results, guys. Okay. Formats the results. There it formats the results, guys. Come on, I want reply. Now Those formatted results goes to dispatcher servlet, guys. And same formatted results goes to browser as response. Same formatted results goes to browser as response. I hope you understood, guys. This is the fixed flow. This is user defined. This is user defined. Remaining all are fixed, guys. Flow will not change. By developing new methods, new classes, you can involve your logics in this flow. Here and here, by developing new files, new classes, you can involve your logic in these places. But flow never changes, guys. Flow never changes. If someone asks you Spring MVC flow, what we are going to say? Browser gives request. As a front controller, dispatcher servlet traps and takes the request. Number 3, dispatcher servlet hands over the request to handler mapping component. Number 4, question mark. Handler mapping component searches for the right handler method, right handler class to process the request. Number 5, handler mapping gives right handler method and handler class information to dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet. Understanding my statement, boss? Now, dispatcher servlet uses that information to call the handler method. To call the handler method. Come on, my dear. Come on. Either directly in the handler method or by taking the support of service and DAO classes, it formats the request and generates the results. Handler method sends nickname or token kind of information to dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet passes that nickname or token, nothing but logical view name, to view resolver. Based on nickname or token name, by talking to SpringBean configuration file, it will decide the real physical view component name and location. Real physical view component name and location. Okay, dispatcher servlet communicates with the physical view component. There it formats the results, and the formatted results comes back to dispatcher servlet. And the formatted results comes back to dispatcher servlet. Everyone getting my point, guys? Finally, that formatted results goes to browser as response. These formatted results goes to browser as response. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Come on. Super. Now I would like to give flow of execution with respect to diagrams. With respect to diagram, number 1, browser gives request to Spring MVC application. Number 2, dispatcher servlet traps and takes the request, applies the common services. Dispatcher servlet hand over the request to handler mapping component. Super, boss. Handler mapping component searches for the handler method and handler class that can process the current request. It will search for correct handler method and handler class who can process the current request. Super, boss. Okay. Next, handler mapping component gives handler method signature and handler class details to dispatcher servlet. Handler method signature and details to dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet calls handler method of handler class or controller class. This method is called. That is 6. Number 7, handler method processes the request either directly or by taking the support of service DAO classes, and also keeps generated results in model attributes, nothing but request to scope. Array, whatever result that are generated will be kept in scope. Will be kept in scope. This is 7. Number 8, handler method returns logical view name to DS. LVN means logical view name. LVN means logical view. Logical view name was super. DS gives logical view name to view resolver component. View resolver uses its entire talent. Based on the LVN, it will decide physical view component view name and location. Yeah, physical view name and component back to DS, number 10. Number 11, DS executes the view component to format the results. View component executed where formatted, results are formatted. Next, number 12, DS gets formatted results from view component, formatted results back to dispatcher side. Number 13, DS sends formatted results to browser as responses. Formatted results to browser as responses. Everyone got it, guys? Everyone understood my statement, guys? Enjoyed it thoroughly? Got the clarity? Yeah. In the middle of the sleep also, if someone asks you, can you explain springMvc flow? You should be in a position to deliver. Now you can give 50% confidently, but after seeing 1-2 applications, you can give 100% confident. Okay. After 1-2 application, you can give 100% because every day we develop all applications satisfying this flow. I think you might have got maximum clarity in the diagram itself. Maximum clarity in the diagram itself. There are multiple handler classes. There are multiple view components. Okay, which request should go to which view handler class? Is decided by whom, guys? Is identified and decided by whom, guys? Handler mapping component. It is the broker between dispatcher, servlet, and handler classes. There are so many view components to format so many results. Who is the there are so many handler classes generating so many results. Now, who decides which result of which handler class should go to which view component? Who is that special person? Who is that broker here? Who is that broker here? Who decide which result of which handler class should be formatted by using which JSP component, which view component? Who is that fellow? You can write shortcuts, I don't mind. That can be view resolver or not. That can be seriously view resolver or not. That can be seriously view resolver or view resolver component can happily take that responsibility, boss. Nice, boss. Okay, don't miss tomorrow's session. Tomorrow, I'm going to reveal all these components with coding. How to develop our own controller class, how to configure ready-made handler mapping, how to configure ready-made view resolver, how to develop our own physical view component, how to activate ready-made dispatcher servlet. Already I have given this idea by writing entries in web.xml file. Everything we are going to study tomorrow. Today I have given diagram-based flow. Tomorrow I am going to give code-based flow. Tomorrow I am going to give code-based flows. Thank you.